Hello, in this video I'm going to be showing a beginner's tutorial for how to use Autodesk Inventor. Basically I'm going to touch on a few different topics here just to get you started if you haven't ever used it before. I'm going to show how to make a sketch, different components of a sketch, why you would want to make a sketch, how to turn that sketch into a 3D object, and then altering that 3D object with the tools that you have available to make whatever final part that you want to design. So starting out here, what you're going to want to do is go up to New, and then you have a couple options. You can make a standard part file in inches, or you can make a standard part file in millimeters. This is how you're going to get started. You need parts in order to make bigger assemblies and stuff like that. So you need to get started here. I'm going to start out with a metric part file. That's what .ipt means. It's an Inventor part file. So just click it, you hit create, and then you're going to open up your blank part file here. So you have your workspace. This is where whatever you create is going to pop up here. And you have your model tree, which this shows the different components of your part, and you can delete things here. You can see starting out all it has are the different planes that you have available to work on and the different axes that you have available. You're just the standard axes that you'd see on any XYZ coordinate grid. So to get started, you're going to want to make a sketch. 2D sketch is typically how you're going to get a part started. So you come up to this top left corner where it says Start 2D Sketch. You click that, and then it gives you these planes that you have available to work on. I always start with the XY plane. You don't have to, you can start on any of them, but that's just how I typically get started. So I click that, and now you have a variety of shapes and different things you can use here. Just to show you, I'm going to go through each one just to show you. Rectangle. There are a couple different kinds of rectangles you can use, different ways you can make it really. You can have a center point and a corner, you can have 3 points, you can have 2 points. I usually start, if I'm making a rectangle right off the bat, I start with this center point and a corner. Put it right here on the middle of these, 2 crossing lines, which is one of the XYZ axes. Click there, and then you can make it as big as you want. You can just go out here and click a point, or if you want to, you can actually type the size that you want. For this, I'm just going to click. Put that there. You can use your scroller on your mouse to zoom in and out, or you can come over here. You can actually get this little tool panel here, and you can zoom by dragging up and down. And you have a couple other tools too. You can do pan, you can move it around. Orbit will turn it. But you can also come up here to the corner. You got this cube, and you can just change the angle that you're looking at it like that. So I just want to look at it the front again. So we got our rectangle. We put that here, centered on our plane. Next tool that you'll probably be using a lot is the line tool. So I'm going to click that. You got some different kinds of lines here. Just to get started, I'm going to use the typical 2-point line. Click that, and we can draw some lines. Pretty simple. You just click where you want to start, click your next spot, and then from there you can keep just clicking once to make more lines until you close the shape. And now I'd have to click again to get started. But I got my 3 lines here. Moving to the next shape, let's just show a circle. Again, you have a couple different ways you can make it. You can do a center point and show the radius, which is what I'll usually do, but then you can also do tangents. You can make an ellipse, variation on a circle. Let's go here, just make a typical circle. Starting at the center point, you'll see once I hit this line, it shows that I'm tangent to that line, touching just at this center point. And I can click and I can make that. So pretty simple. You can just make that. You can go to your tangent. You can also, if you wanted to, when you do that, you can type in a diameter that you want that circle to be. Arches, again, different ways you can do it. But I'm going to do the 3-point arch here. So I'm going to do the 2 endpoints. Come here, you do the 2 endpoints if I want it to come off of this part, and then you show where you want it to go out to radius-wise. Next thing that I want to go through with you is constraints. These are important. So this section up here, up towards the top right, shows your constraints. And you got a variety of options here. So you have your coincident constraint, makes it so that at one point, 2 different either lines, curves, whatever it is, will touch at some point. So if these 2 lines here weren't connected to each other, I could click the end of this line and I could click the end of this line, and it'll make them come together. Collinear, so you can make sure that 2 lines are on the same path even if they're not touching. Concentric, 2 circles will be have the same center point. You can fix something. If I want this to stay the same, but when I do other constraints, I want those parts to move, this will stay fixed in its spot if I use that constraint. So just for an example, now I use the parallel constraint, and I make this line parallel to this line. This line is going to stay angled like this, and the rest of it's going to move. Except that we already have this fixed on this center point. So we'd actually have to delete that. Let's go ahead and give that a try. You can delete some constraints. See, so this is fixed. Let's see if that deleted the constraints necessary to make that move. So you got a lot of different constraints. This is constraint to be horizontal, which is another one you can see up here. It's the horizontal constraint. These are perpendicular to each other. I think once we delete this horizontal, we should be good to go then. And I can make these perpendicular, and the thing, yeah, there you go. It'll rotate. So that's how you saw a couple different constraints, how they work. Perpendicular. So we can make this perpendicular to that. Horizontal, you just saw that a second ago. But we won't be able to actually make this horizontal now because we have the constraints that these are parallel, and now this is parallel, and this one can't move. So if we were to make this horizontal again, it wouldn't work. Vertical, tangent, which we saw that you can do that without the tangent tool at certain times. You can make a curve a continuous smooth curve. You can make things symmetric. And you can change the dimensions to be equal. Now it brings me to dimensions, which if we click here, now we can actually change the size of different objects. So we got a lot of constraints here, so we're going to see what's going to work. So I click that line, and I can put a dimension here. So right now it's 24 millimeters. If I were to change that, I could make it 30 millimeters. It makes that line match 30 millimeters. In this case, since I have so many constraints here, it basically just scaled up the whole part. That's not always going to happen. If you weren't so thoroughly constrained, then it would just change this. It may even change the whole shape of the thing, because by changing this dimension, you just throw the whole thing out of whack. But in this case, since it is so constrained, the whole thing just scaled up to match that 30 millimeters. So next thing I wanted to go through is patterning. So actually first, let me go through filleting. So we have a corner here, And we want this to be a rounded corner. So what we can do is we can use a fillet. Come up here, we click the two lines that have the corner that we want to create. You see it already is creating it. We can change this to be bigger, 5 millimeters. Let's come down and do this one. So you can see that's a much bigger curve. You can do this on any corners. Because of these other ends being rounded with the radius and stuff, we aren't able to do it on that end. But right there, that shows you pretty much how that's done. Pretty simple. You can do this within a sketch. And later on, I'm going to show you can actually do this after you've already created a 3D part as well. And it just depends on what you're trying to do, whether or not you want to wait or want to do it in the sketch. So next thing I wanted to show you, let me show you trim really quick. Trim is pretty useful tool that you're going to use a lot. So say I drew this circle. I really only wanted this portion here to be drawn. I don't want this corner. All I have to do is I got to turn on the trim tool, and the trim tool is going to cut out pieces between points. So we have a point here where these are tangent. We have a point here where this construction line, that's what the dotted line is, crosses our circle. And it's going to cut out that portion between if I click on it. Same thing here. Let's do it again. Get rid of it. Now we just have this portion available. Now say the part I want to make is, I want to make a circle with a little point here. So let's just cut out everything that is not that. Let's get rid of all this. Just get rid of all of it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the rest. Don't need to trim it anymore. Delete. Delete. And you can see here when I'm selecting, I can actually overlap other parts. In order for a part to get selected, the entire component needs to be encased in that box. So by just getting part of a piece, you're not actually highlighting anything. So this is our shape that we have, that we want to be our final shape. Next thing I want to show you before we leave the sketch and finalize our sketch, I want to show you how to do patterning. So say this is the component we want, but we want 3 of them. What we can do is we can do a rectangle pattern. I can select this whole part as the geometry that I want to pattern. And then I need to select the direction that I want it to go in. So I'll need a line to pattern it by. I'm just going to use this line here. You can use any line that's part of the sketch. You can make a line just for the patterning. So I'm going to use this line that's already a part of the sketch that I'm using. So I chose the direction. You can flip the direction with this. This flips the direction. And then I show how many times I want to pattern it. So pattern it 3 times. And you can see they're overlapping right now. I don't want them to overlap. So I'm going to space them out. This is the distance between your parts that you're patterning. So let's say 30 millimeters. That gets them a little bit spaced out. Let's go 40 just to give a little more room. You can see you got 3 instances of this part that I created patterned out. So we're good to go. I can hit OK. And it just copied it 3 times. Now let's say I wanted these 3 things, but I wanted 3 of them like this, fanned out in a circle. So I want these 3, and then I want that patterned around. And what you do is I make a circle. I go to circular pattern. I select what I want to pattern, these 3 objects. I then have to pick a direction to circle around. So I'm picking this circle, and I'm going to choose a direction around that circle that I want to go. And I can flip it just like before, but in this case it's not going to make a difference which way I go. Here it's going to equally space them out along this circle that I created. And let's say I want 5 of them just, not 6. And I have it going all the way around the circle, 360 degrees. Okay, and now I created that. Now let's just say I don't want this circle, I just want the components. I can delete that. There's no reason to have it. So we went through that. We got our parts that we want to turn into, whatever these are. It's really nothing, but this is what we want, per se. So now we're done with our sketch. We finish, and we exit, and it's bringing us right to the center point of our sketch. What we can do is we can go front, up here in the top right, and it's going to center the whole sketch on our screen so we can see it nicely. So now we want to take this and we want to turn it into a 3-dimensional part, or here it'll be multiple 3-dimensional parts. So we're going to go up here to extrude. This is a easy way to make a 3D part. Just all you need is a profile, which is what our 2D sketch is a profile sketch. And then you can take that and you can expand it up to make a 3D part. So that's what we're going to do here. We're actually going to do it with all of these. There we go. So I selected them all. You can see right now we're making them 10 millimeters high. Let's say I want to make them 20 millimeters high. Okay. And we can actually also change the direction we're extruding, so we can go that way. We can go both directions, and if you go both directions, it's actually not going to go 20 in each direction. It's going to go 10 in each direction. So that's the total thickness, not the distance it's going in each direction. Click this, you can actually do an uneven amount. You can do this much on this side and this much on this side. Let's just go one direction, 20 millimeters. Okay. With that, we have our parts. So the obvious why you make a sketch is that you make a sketch in order to turn it into a 3D part, because that's the ultimate goal with Autodesk Inventor. You're trying to make something that's 3-dimensional that you can work with, model something in real life. So there you can see how you can easily take a 2D sketch, turn it into a 3D component. And there are other ways too. For this video, I'm just going to show this Extrude Tool, but in future ones, I'm going to show you Sweep, Loft, and some of these other ones here that are great for making solid parts as well. But just to get you the basics, you can do a lot with just this Extrude Tool. Now, say you want to come in here and you want to alter your 3D sketches. So start with, I'm just going to touch on a couple things here. A lot of these are going to require you to go back in, make another 2D sketch. So I'm not going to touch on those. But what I can show here is a fillet with a 3D part. So I come in, it says 2 millimeters. I want this to be 5 millimeters. Okay. 5 millimeters. I'm going to select, and that makes a 5 millimeter fillet around that corner. Apply, and there you have, you can see this is just on the top edge. Now I can do that same thing and apply that exact same fillet to all of these components just by continuously clicking. Pretty simple. On this one, I just did it all the way around. Do that on all of them too. And that doesn't require any additional sketches to be made. Let's see, some other ones here. If you were to make a hole, you're going to need to make another sketch. You're going to have a center point to work with. And since we made these into 3D sketches, 3D components, we are going to actually have to come in here and make another circle to actually work with. So the hole isn't going to work without going a little more in depth, which I'm going to save for another video. Shell, you can actually core out a part. Let's see, I don't think you need another sketch for this. Let's go to one of these ones that I didn't fill at the edge on. Did I do it to all of them? I think I did it to all of them. So let's go to the other side. So I'm going to spin this around, take a look at this edge here, this side here. And I'm going to shell this piece. And what I can do is I can say the actual thickness I want. And this is going to be the thickness of that outside wall as well as the opposite face. Get it okay. And then if you look here, if I give it an angle, you can see that I actually hollowed this out and made it 1 millimeter thick across this wall and also at this top portion. It's just a 1 millimeter shell all the way through. That covers most of what I want to show in this video. I'm going to go ahead and make another one. It goes more in depth on some of these things. Shows how to make a 2D sketch on an existing 3D part. And shows some of these other tools that you can use once you've done that. But I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions or anything like that, you can go ahead and put those in the comments. And I'd appreciate any feedback, anything you want to see, anything you want me to go more in depth in. I will definitely be listening to that. So, thank you.